Place my hand over. Could you walk with me? Yeah. I'm alone, oh Jah. Yeah. Could you talk with me? Yeah. You are the reason me not in the market. And you give me peace now me heart all when me get rich and have 3 bodyguard and some big bad dog in me heart. I still a walk with the Savior. Each and everywhere that I go. Still not left out the most high. I not left out the most high. I still a walk with the Savior. Each and everywhere that I go. Still not left King Tafari. I not left out the most high. On my way to
The power of comics is the same as the power of modern day myth, and it's the same like the Bible. You've got these ancient stories where people, you've got the 10 Commandments, which is a very good thing, but then you've got people in there doing all sorts of things that go against that, and people say, well, that's a contradiction, that conflicts, that makes the Bible wrong. When in fact, actually, no, how are you going to learn these stories, these moral concepts, if you don't see the whole story, how it actually happened, how it got to that? You know, that's how we get to wisdom. And so some would say, oh, well, that by saying it like you're talking like evil's necessary. It's not a case of evil is necessary. It's a case of, well, if you know better, you're going to avoid evil, right? You're going to avoid all that, and you won't have to do that. But some people actually have done that. And here's an example. So, you know, you were saying why not to do it. Here's why. But people that, you know, they want to be, what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? Pedantic.
Oh, pedantic.
Yes, exactly. Pedantic or pedantic.
Oh, you just mean pedantic. Do you know what it means? Do you know what it means? Pedantic.
Yeah. But anyway, getting back to what we were saying. Superman. Superman's like the hero almost of the elite. Yeah?
Why?
Let me finish this train of thought, and then you see where I'm getting. And Spider-Man's like the hero of the normal, of the poor man, if you will. So yeah, Superman is like the hero for the rich people, the elites. Because he represents someone with no problems, so he can go off and be a hero. Same like Batman kind of falls onto that. Yeah, Spider-Man represents the poor man. The common, everyday man, right? That's how he's written. Yeah, he's got everyday problems. He's got aunt and uncle and all of that, and bad things happen to him. It's not, you know, it's like he never has an easy life. It's like saying to the poor man, well, you're never going to have a good, easy life, yeah? But as long as you're heroic in your duty, then you're all right, you're Spider-Man. And then you got Superman who's like, you know, he can come home and if he has time, I suppose, just sit and watch TV, and, you know, he doesn't have to worry. You know, I don't suppose he has to eat. He can just chill. In that sense, from an idea point of view, he's like the rich man who wants for nothing. And you've got this idea of class war, because that's what's really going on. A war between ideas, and the ideas are class.
Is a hero of the people.
Well,
in the common sense, or a hero of the elite.
Common people have their hero, and the elites have their heroes. The elites will probably put people up there, you know, like, oh, this military leader, he's so great because he did great things for us and enabled us to expand our empire. And then you got the common man, will say someone like, oh, Robin Hood, because he robbed from the rich and gave to the poor. He's our hero. In many ways, Robin Hood is just as enduring as Jesus Christ. In a way, Robin Hood is just as enduring as Jesus Christ, because the power of myth, the power of what is heroic then? What is a heroic act? You know, that heroic act is giving and helping.
Sacrifice, isn't it?
Sacrifice, and others respecting what that person has done so that others can get through by that. Who does that? It's the type of mentality. It's how you grew up. If you grow up poor, you'll probably look at someone like Spider-Man and say, yeah, he is someone I identify with. If you're rich already, you'll say Superman's the greatest because I identify with him.
Maybe the rich.
Because you don't actually have the experience.
Maybe the rich identify with Batman.
Maybe that as well, because again, you know, the experience of poverty. But the psychology of Batman and Superman, again, as it's written in the comics, two different characters. Superman never saw his parents being murdered and had parents to kind of replace the other parents. So the parents he knew, it in a sense, were parents.
Yeah,
so he wasn't parentless.
The thing between the Superman Spider-Man comparison isn't really valid, because one's not really.
None of them are real, but we learn from myths. And in that sense, Christ doesn't have to be real to learn from the myth.
Try a Batman, Spider-Man concepts. It's two equally human people, both orphans, one rich, one not so rich, because then you're dealing with money issues, which Superman isn't concerned with.
But then you got someone like Batman, depending on, I suppose, how you look at him. If you believe, like the 1960s, Batman's like the cop's best friend, and he's in there with Commissioner Gordon every minute, and you know, it's like all pally, isn't it?
Well,
but then you've got the original where Batman is again like Spider-Man. He's a menace. You know, the police want to get him because he's doing something that they say he's not been given the authority. He's not been sanctioned by them. He's not been. He's not one of them. Basically, if you're not one of them, you're not one of them, and they're against you, whether you're doing good or not. That is again a critique on society. What's going on, you know? But do kids really stay on that point and get that? Because that in itself is a huge, massive point. That's the underlying factor why criminals exist. If you looked at that in the comic book world and said, well, all these criminals are just trying to get rich. Well, if they were rich, would they be criminals still, do you think? And then we look at real life and you say, well, you look at the rich people and people think they are the criminals. So what are you talking about? Being rich makes you a criminal, or the seeking of riches, or the maintaining of keeping those riches. Because once you've got the riches, what are you going to do with them? You keep them or you spend them. And if you're going to keep them, you need to keep them safe and protected. And so they create their own prison. And in creating their own prison through their own paranoia, they project it on everybody else because they have that position of power and say to society, well, you need to be worried about your money like us and buy a safe and get a burglar alarm and put locks on your doors and everybody wants your thing, you know? And so that's trickling down as a type of culture. Culture is a type of myth. It's a type of belief. It's a story being told by the elite, and people are bringing it into their life and giving it power by believing in it. Anything you believe in will give it power, will give it life. You know, if you believed that the concepts of Batman and Superman can be brought to real life somehow and have some kind of meaning to explain what we're here to do, what we all should be doing.
Just walk your own path, man, innit?
Yeah, I do. But, you know, when you're talking to people and they can't quite grasp what you're trying to say to them, you can use these myths as an instant, oh, I'm with you, mate. You know, we're all on the same page here, so to speak, whether it be a comic book page or the Bible. You know, it's just that people, because they know already that Batman and Superman are not real, I suppose they would have more trouble believing in it. But if you say Jesus Christ, people believe he was real, and therefore they're more likely to believe it. Yet, the things that you say Jesus could do are just the same like saying Superman can fly, which most people will say that's not real. So why do you believe in it? And say, well, he was real, but this bit was, or yeah, and that happened and no one else could do it. No one else could replicate it. Not really sit down and seriously ask yourself the question, well, how do I learn anything about Superman? Because he's got powers that I can't do these things. So he's kind of unrelatable. That in a way makes Jesus Christ unrelatable, because he can just create the miracles and no one else could do it, can they not? But I really think if you stop looking at things all the time literally and say, well, listen, there's a lesson we could learn here. Feeding the 5,000 with 7 loaves and 5 fishes could be done if you change your thinking and create fish soup. You know? It's a miracle to some people. Well, yeah, because the simple everyday solution is the heroic solution, isn't it? That is the sacrifice. Again, we're sacrificing. This guy, he wants a big piece of bread and one whole fish to himself, and he in his head, that's a meal. And then you change the focus and you say, well, no, it's going to be fish soup, and everyone can have fish soup, and they'll say, okay, yeah, that's great, actually. But it's about convincing others that what we're about to try and do is the right thing to do.
I suppose there's some sort of technological way of explaining something like making the blind see in the same way.
Yeah.
You spit and you look a little in their eyes and whatnot. And
yeah, you could get scientific or technological, or you could just look at it as a
soup story.
Metaphor, yeah.
Go on.
When people have spoken about the blind seeing, it's like people who are not blind, such as everybody who lives now. We all see, or we're supposed to see, exactly what's happening in front of us, and someone will say this has happened. But then some people tell themselves what they want to be true rather than what's actually happened. That's solipsism. They only want to believe what they want to be true, because dealing with the other information is going to put them in duality. It's going to make them question their core belief. And in questioning their core belief, they're going to have to say to themselves, I was wrong. Oh, God forbid. Nobody wants to be wrong. But in a way, when you look at the villain's story, the villain would never say he's wrong. The villain would say, I am right. And the superhero would also say, I am right. So who decides really who's right and who's wrong? Is it not the person who's reading what the author has written? If you're going to convey a message and you want it to come across to others, then the other is creating their understanding of that message at that time, aren't they? But if you want the truth about what was intended by the author, then you ask the author. Because only the author could tell you what he intended it all to mean. That's why when someone writes to you and you don't know what it means, you don't understand it, you write to them and say, I don't understand what you mean. Can you explain it? Because they wrote it, but words can have double meanings, triple meanings.
That's what that.
Yeah, thanks.